The most important thing that you shan't do is touch a Black person's hair. Let me just throw that out there for everyone. You will not, do not file that under facts. I just wanted to make sure that we got that in there somewhere. All right, welcome all, and thank you for joining me for what is the third episode of Conversations with My White Allies. Today I have some special guests. I'm joined by Matthew Smith. He is an account executive at RhythmOne, a father of 3 beautiful children, and what I would say is maybe like his most important role in life. He's my big brother. So Matthew, if you would, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us where you're from, and hit us with your favorite TV show of all time.
So what's up to everybody watching? I would consider myself a West Coast kid from San Diego, but we did do a short stint in South Florida, in Coral Springs, Fort Lauderdale area. That's where I met Ben, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but definitely a California kid. My favorite TV show, so I hate to get too nitpicky with the words right off the bat, so I'm going to go multiple answer. TV show would be Martin. TV series, which I do feel is a little bit different, is going to be either Friday Night Lights or Breaking Bad. So those are my 2 on series.
I rock with all of those. Awesome. Thanks for joining. As Matthew said, we've also got Ben. We're joined by Ben Guyton. He is an insurance agent at Amerilife, proud doggy dad, and what we would consider an outspoken Black Lives Matter advocate. Ben, if you would, tell us where you're from, where you're repping, and your favorite show of all time.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Happy to be here. Originally from South Florida, Coral Springs, as Matt said. I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina now. I've been here for about 5 years. And favorite show of all time, got to be It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Nice.
So, lots of good memories in college of that show.
I've only seen a few episodes of that, but now it gives me something that maybe I'll have to find what streaming service it's on and binge, because you say it's good. I got to trust you.
Definitely worth watching.
Nice. Well, thank you for joining. As always with this, I will never assume that anyone watching knows who I am. My name is Morgan Smith-Lanyard. I am a people operations business partner at Help Scout, mom to 2 beautiful children, wife to 1 amazing husband. And I would say that I am also from San Diego, always repping that, currently living in Columbia, Missouri. Been here for, I think, close to 8 or 9 years. I lose track. Favorite show of all time. There's so many. I'm going to go with Parenthood. It's a tearjerker. Same producer or writer as Friday Night Lights, which is one of my favorites as well. So we've got that in common. But yeah, I'm gonna go Parenthood is definitely my favorite show of all time. Well, we'll hop into it. Thank you both for joining me. I am excited to have both of you. Ben, while we don't know each other super well, my brother has told me nothing but amazing things. What I know so far is that you all were friends around like 8th or 9th grade, did some sports together, had a few classes, and have remained in touch through what is the beauty of social media. Matthew, will you tell me a little bit, or tell the audience a little bit about why you chose Ben? Why did you feel he was the ally that would bring maybe the most to this conversation that we're about to have?
Yeah. To start off, Ben is just, Ben's my guy, right? So we've always had like a good relationship and rapport. Like I said, started in the, early 2000s, like late middle school, early high school. We rode a lot of bus trips, baseball games and tournaments together. And even though we don't have like specific things that are like just matching and in common, like he might've been listening to Blink-182 and Papa Roach while I'm listening to Dr. Dre and early Cash Money, Lil Wayne and Baby, stuff like that. Like we always had a friendship type of connection. And what I respect about Ben, we've maintained that communication and friendship online. And, I always see him, quick to step out there and kind of put somebody in their place when they're blatantly wrong. About issues of race and prejudice, and especially with the recent dealings with George Floyd and things like that. It's a crazy time to be on social media, and he's always on the side of what's right. And I know it can be stressful to have those type of conversations, and it's a lot easier to be on the side of silent, and to where as a Black person you don't know where that person stands, and he makes it known what his feelings and opinions are, and it's something I highly respect.
Awesome. Well, that makes me even more excited to have this conversation and have been here. I'll just recap some of the specifics about what we're doing. We're going to kick the conversation off. Run of show is, we're just going to have a candid and, possibly uncomfortable conversation around Black experience and meaningful allyship. Myself and my guests will bounce questions back and forth, and we'll answer openly, honestly, and ideally unfiltered. There are no ground rules for questions. The only ground rules are for responses. I don't think we'll have any problems here. We will answer each other respectfully, we'll disagree respectfully, and we'll aim to leave better than we entered. That said, this is my first time having two male guests. This is my first time having a Black man on the show, which I think is important, especially given the things that are happening in the world today and the things that we're fighting for. So today, I'm not going to jump off with the questions. I'm not going to ask any questions at all. I'm going to let you all do most of the talking. I'm just, kind of here to witness and maybe ask some clarifying questions to jump in. I'm going to let Ben kick it off. Ben, you want to hit us with your question one?
Yeah, sure. I first want to thank Matt for everything he said. I mean, I remember back in the day bumping icons on the middle school bus to baseball trips for sure. So lots of good memories growing up together, watching him be successful on the field while I was on the bench most of the time. As an ally, one of the things that I find myself in common a lot of the times, as Matt said, I have no problem speaking up when it comes to shouting something down when I see something that's problematic. But one thing I wanted to ask about is what specifically in a bigger crowd, when you're at a protest or a demonstration or anything, when people are speaking and sharing their experiences, when and how is it a good way to add to the message rather than to take away from the goal? When is it important to maybe be silent and listen rather than speak up and be heard?
Yeah, so I think, specifically when we're talking about like a large group setting, obviously the best way you want to lead with compassion and empathy. So specific to that setting, I believe you start with listening, and listening while being an active participant. So there are strength in numbers. So obviously your presence in those type of moments does mean something. If it's an event that's pre-scheduled, that where you can add resources. Nowadays, a lot of times you need masks, water, things like that. So if you can add resources to that type of event, obviously that's helpful. As a person of color, you kind of hate to think this way, but if you could even just be there for your eyes and ears and being ready to record, making sure that the Black people and people of color there are safe. Holding officers and things of that nature accountable. I think that's something that you can add to the equation. And I don't want you to take the comment as to, not speak or not not feel that your voice is wanted or required, but I feel like it should be in a position of kind of reinforcing what's being said, especially if there's already like Black leadership there that's active and they're speaking, in whatever ways that you can reinforce the points that they're trying to get across. I think that's what's most useful in that scenario.
Yeah, I'll piggyback that, I guess. I think the most important thing in that setting, in like a protest, people are like, maybe coming to the mic or whatever to share experiences and stories. I would say, like, don't volunteer your voice unless you have something that, like, I don't know, that really adds to it. Like, just like say something more, like, don't just speak just to say, like, I'm here, I'm here, I support you. Like, no, we see you. Let's be real about the situation. Like, any Black person that's there is like, oh, like, I see my white brothers and sisters, like, in support. You don't really need to call it out. I think what those moments are for is about sharing experiences. And I'm going to assume that you've bear witness to some experiences, or at least some white people have. And so if you have something to add with that context, I would say, yeah, jump in, speak, but certainly, like, amplify the Black voices first. I think that's the most important thing, and the listening piece is really key. Let's go to you, Matthew. What's your first question?
Yeah, so I think the main question that I get from a lot of allies, so to speak, is how can I be a part of the solution? I guess it kind of piggybacks on your first question as well. And I don't want to speak for all Black people, but I'll say maybe I can speak for a lot of them. To us, the answer to that seems like really, really easy. And I know that there's, obviously there's a difference in perspective, but ultimately we want you to just see us as equal and speak up when other people, clearly don't, or on the other side of things. And I assume that there's some hurdles to face when doing that. So my question is, can you speak to what those hurdles are? It seems like maybe that, the initial conversation or the initial response might be kind of a difficult thing. So can you speak to what the hurdles are, and how do we get past that hurdle to make sure that the conversations continue? And, yeah, I guess that's kind of it.
Yeah, so I agree with you 100% saying that, it's kind of insulting that people can't get on the foundational level, that the solution is pretty basic, just to treat every human like a human being, regardless of any other factor. Unfortunately, that's a barrier that we have to break down with a lot of people somehow. And I think part of that is introducing uncomfortable conversations and making a situation feel less than savory sometimes. If you're with a group of buddies, and I speaking for myself now, if I'm with a group of buddies and I hear them, maybe saying something I don't appreciate, I'm going to make sure I say something about it. Not to be a dick about it, but that's a learning experience, first of all. And second of all, if someone doesn't say anything, everyone in that conversation that's involved now notices, hey, that was okay to be said by everyone here. So does that mean they go around repeating the same thing because they've got that silent acknowledgement? And that's where I think the bigger problem lies, is people staying silent. I believe Ben Franklin said something along the lines of, change doesn't happen until people that are unaffected start to empathize with those effects. And I think empathy is where we as a nation, unfortunately, have to go towards, in order for this conversation to actually get the ball rolling and merit change, some of the changes that we didn't actually accomplish in the 60s and 70s, that we're seeing again today. So I think that's at least, in my opinion, the approach, where we need to get over that first hurdle.
And so for people that are less prone to just kind of jump out there and make their opinions known, like, is there anything that you feel like would help people take that initial step? Because, obviously everybody that, you can assume that everybody that does not speak out, they're not all on the side of bad, and they're not all on the side of good. But those that are kind of like on the fence, what do you think would help make them feel more comfortable just speaking up and speaking out?
Well, I actually had someone who I work with the other day ask me, they're like, hey, I really appreciate what you get out and say on Facebook and how outspoken you are, but I fear for the consequences of like family members of mine or my job. And I hate that I don't say anything, and I feel like I should. And then I beat myself up over it. And I was like, you know what? Everyone's got to contribute in their own way. I have no problem contributing the way that I do. But if you're able to contribute it in some other way that does make you comfortable but still helpful, then maybe find a different avenue. Maybe it's donating to the good cause or shopping and supporting Black-owned businesses, but you don't have to be doing the same kind of thing I'm doing. So just trying to support people in finding their own way to contribute, at least whatever way they feel comfortable doing,
I got a follow-up question for Matthew, just because this has been something that's been on my mind. Ben mentioned, and I think I've mentioned in a couple of these episodes now, that everybody is going to ally in their own way. Everyone is going to show support in their own way. And sometimes that is silent support. People have fears. People are not confrontational. They don't want that experience. In your opinion, is silent support? If you're just donating, if you've just got a sign, if you're not speaking, does it count?
So yeah, I can't say that it doesn't count because if it's silent, I don't know that it exists. So it's it's like the tree falls in the forest and nobody's there to hear it. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing. So yeah, does the support count? Sure, for whatever it is. But if I don't know, you're still in that gray zone. You're still on the fence where I don't know what side that you stand on. But yeah, I mean, I think in a nutshell, everything does count. So it depends on where you're evaluating it from.
Cool. Yeah, I don't know that I have a strong answer to that either. That's one of the things I've just been mulling over recently, because I do think that everybody is entitled to like their way, and social media is tough. Like it comes with a lot. So many people can see it. You don't want the uncomfortable questions at work. You don't know where people stand. And I get that discomfort, but also like, damn, like today is the day to show up. And I need you to show up in a public way to me, but I don't know. It's like it is a gray area. I'm not entirely sure.
Well, for me,
I feel this way. So, I'll just speak, whoever watches this video, and there's obviously we have friends, family, right, that are white. So the white people that know me, your silence will not save my life. So whatever donations you give, if you have the opportunity to say something to shift somebody's perspective, and you don't take it, but you're silently non-racist. At the end of the day, I could be George Floyd or any of these other people, and your silence will not benefit me.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate enough to be in the business where I can pick and choose who I do and don't work with as a client base. So once all this started playing out, I immediately bought a I can't breathe pin and put it on my bag that I carry into clients' houses. And I've had nothing but positive reactions in public places and stuff like that. And not everyone's going to be as comfortable as I am doing that, because I'm okay with being a little more outspoken about it, because I know others can't do the same. So if I have to pick up the slack for it, I'm more than willing to do that, because I do have people that reach out to me and say, thank you for speaking up, because I fear that I can't, or I don't know how. So, the silent support, like you said, it's not showing you who means what they really mean. But people have to find their own way to contribute somehow.
I just got to find, I know we've spent a lot of time on this question. I apologize. I think my final thought on that is, I think my issue with silent support, or the sort of background support that is usually monetary, is it's what we've been doing. And it hasn't worked. And I think that's what irritates me the most. Y'all know it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. Breonna Taylor showed us that doesn't work. George Floyd showed us that doesn't work. Elijah showed us that doesn't work. So this idea that we're going to keep doing the same shit and expect different results, well, no, you're going to have to do something different now. Like now we need you to speak. Like, I think that's where I'm landing at this point. Like, silent support is what has been happening, and Black people are still getting murdered in the streets, and there's no justice. So like it just doesn't. I think it's frustrating for me now.
I don't want to make us keep beating this particular issue over the head. So my bad. But as a Black person, like we can't camouflage this. You know what I mean? And silent support. As a white person, you can camouflage it, because you can support. And then you can be in a crowd where they don't know what side you stand on, and you can still be silent when people are being oppressive and doing things that are wrong. But then you can also say, well, hey, I donated to this cause. Hey, I did this. Hey, I did that. Hey, I had 2 Black people at my house on Thursday. Like, you can still do all that, and donate, a different way. So it's frustrating, like Morgan said, and it's playing it safe, and at this point, we can't afford to keep playing it safe and having the cycle repeat itself.
Yeah. All right.
Agreed.
I appreciate. So everybody's like, check, we got it.
Yes.
Ben, you want to do your question too?
Yeah. So as someone who definitely understands and recognizes the privileges that do come up with having white skin and my upbringing, what are some subconscious behaviors or, behavioral tendencies that could be perceived to you guys, maybe on a personal level or more on a broad level. Certain micro transgressions that myself and others need to be more aware of. And how do we begin to help others realize the perception of those same actions and when they're doing them?
Matthew, I'll let you go. Yeah.
One thing that I can remember is just being a kid growing up. I was okay at sports, and I would usually make like scholar athlete or all conference, all academic team, something like that. And you can just feel like, people are clapping for the award and whatnot, but you can also feel like, damn, he's smart. Like he goes to class, he has books, he knows some words and whatnot. Like, and just feeling that type of stuff kind of sucks. You know what I mean? And that's just that. Like, that's just me feeling things. That being said, like it's very tough for me to pinpoint specific microaggression do's and don'ts, I guess. But I would say I can't expect anybody to be perfect. So just be open to feedback. Like if you do say something and somebody's like, hey bro, like that's not cool. Dude, that's racist. Like you didn't realize that. Be open to the feedback and change the behavior. So
I think the most irritating microaggressions to me fall in line with what Matthew is talking about, which is the microaggression of surprise. I get it now in the house that I live in. I got it growing up. One of the things I like to talk about a lot, or when I'm giving people examples of microaggressions, is grew up in a fairly nice neighborhood in San Diego, California. And Halloween always happened that, a couple of classmates would come by the house to collect candy. I was typically handing out the candy. I'd open the door and one of my white classmates or friends, oh my God, you live here? You live here? Yes, this is my house. I think, I'm not sure. Just stumbled upon this neighborhood and walked in this random house. I get it. I'll go to a bar now as an adult and somebody will, common question, what do you do? Oh, I work in HR for X company. Really? Well, what did you expect me to say? You were expecting a service job of some sort. You were expecting something that fits whatever image you've created in your mind. That is a microaggression. It's offensive. And I'll typically let you know that it's offensive. I'll make it very uncomfortable for you too, because it was uncomfortable for me to hear it. Yeah, the microaggression of surprise. Stop being surprised that Black people are different than what you figured up in your mind or what you saw on TV. That shit is annoying. And yeah, to echo Matthew, I think more important than like maybe just shouting out like what microaggressions to try to steer away from is like, just hear people when they tell you. If you respond to me in that way, and I'm like, yo, that wasn't cool. Your assumption there didn't make sense, and here's why I didn't like it. Receive that information, receive it gracefully, and make sure that you don't do it again, and that when someone else you see does it, tell them about themselves too. That's the only way like we all learn. So yeah, I think just being open to hearing why it hurt someone is really important.
I think it's really important what you guys said. I know one that I was guilty of all the time growing up, and I always like to bring it up because other people should hear about it, is, saying I'm colorblind or I don't see color or race doesn't matter. We talked about it before, how growing up, it might've been a generational shift where we were kind of told by our parents, we don't see color. We try to see everyone for the same that they are. And that's a really nice notion. And the thought behind it's are genuine. But when you come out and hear yourself say that like race doesn't matter, you realize how derogatory that actually sounds, because someone's race and color and culture do matter. And it's important to recognize them and embrace their culture and hopefully learn from their culture, and become a better person yourself by learning about theirs and sharing your experiences with them as well. So I think it's a really important time now to, like you said, be able to self-evaluate and be okay when someone's critical of what you say and understand it and accept it.
Ben, I have a question for you. Just speaking about generations and allyship, it's typical for me, or the allies that I know, if they're allies, they came from sort of a history of wokeness, is what I've been calling it, right? So they had parents who were woke, they've got family members to some degree who have been allies, they've seen that, and that's what they picked up. Did you pick up your wokeness? Or you came into this on your own?
No, well, my mom was born and raised in Miami. So I think her growing up in that generation in Miami, of all places, showed her that to not be judgmental of anyone, specifically based on race, culture, and furthermore, sexual identity, because it was South Florida. So me growing up in the 90s in South Florida, I had neighbors who were two men living together. So at a very young age, I understood homosexuality to be very normal and a normal part of life, along with different cultures just being involved. Most of my friends growing up, I happened to play with a lot of the Black kids that were in the SOS Children's Village. They were some of my best friends. So I just grew up hanging out with a lot of people of a lot of walks of life.
Yeah.
It's inspired me to see a lot of people and hear a lot of people's experiences to feel the need to speak up on their behalf, because I do have so many good memories and I value the person I've become based on those experiences and memories. So if the least I can do is speak up, then I'll do at least that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I wish that, I feel like America is still very segregated. It's segregated by economics for the most part, which ties into race. That's part of this systemic issue. And I wish more people were just immersed into all cultures. That is the best way to learn. Matt, you want to hit us with your next question?
Yeah, for sure. So it's a question and kind of a statement, but the point that I'm bringing up, I guess, is that it seems like there are times, a lot of times, that white people get these social scenarios, except when it applies to Black people. So I like to make parallels and examples. So I'm going to use some movie and TV show references that I feel like people will be able to clearly catch on to, and just try and figure out like why this can't apply to Black people. Like, why are we ignoring how these things work? So The Walking Dead, like a show that most of us know and like and follow, or had followed at some period of time. We understand like a lack of resources means that you can't base your operation on like morality, right and wrong. Like your focus is going to shift and it's going to be bottom line. Do I have this or do I not have it? That means like the aggressive, tribalistic, primitive nature of people are going to be more present. In current times, it's going to mean more violence, crime. This explains the hood. Like this is what's happening. Like it's not super hard to follow. You know, I feel like if you don't get it, you're just trying not to get it. And so for me, for a lot of Black people, it's insulting when we hear that our social scenarios, people act like they don't understand it, but there's clear examples. So I'll throw another one out there. Breaking Bad, like Walter White felt like he was backed into a corner. He felt like he didn't leave his family with enough, and he had basically nothing to lose. Morality went by the wayside, and he turned into Heisenberg. Like he was selling meth to not just the city but the world, Craig. Like he was selling it to everybody. He was trying to get his money up, and it was bottom line, do I have what I need or do I not? Okay, I'm getting what I need. Like we get it. And that was again my favorite all-time series list, a lot of people's favorite show of all time, but everybody in the show was a criminal. Like Walter White's wife, money laundering, Jesse, trafficking, Walter White. This is like just the list of the people that he murdered, but he killed Schrader, Gomez. He's responsible for the kid by the train getting killed, Gus, all of Gus's people. Like that's just the people that literally got murdered, like not the drug addicts and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, like people watched the show, they loved it. We empathize with like each character differently. Like, I feel like in most cases, like we wanted to see good things happen. Like there's some light at the end of the tunnel for these people. But again, when you shift, that outlook, and it's like it applies to Black people, it's like we vilify them and whatnot. So to me, I don't get why that can't apply to minorities, why we can't understand some of the things that we go through.
Ben, you want to take that one?
Sure. So it's such an interesting comparison to the way African Americans as a whole are perceived in this country, unfortunately, because I think you're right. If you look at a show like The Wire, which is all about drug culture in Baltimore, very urban Baltimore, every single one of their situations is nearly identical in some way or shape or form to Walter White's situation. They're desperate. They're fighting for their families. They're fighting for their lives. They're trying to just get bills paid and feed their family. And they're going about it the same way. Just one happens to be cooking up meth. The other happens to be slinging crack. And Walter White is the epitome of the worst kind of possible person ever that is uplifted as a hero throughout the entirety of the show. Whereas every single person in The Wire is an anti-hero. And spoiler alert, these shows have all been out a long time. So everyone in The Wire ends up getting capped. Everyone dies an unglorious death from a deal gone wrong or a dirty, crooked cop. And Walter White, he gets to go through this whole long expanse and, finally meets his demise. But, like you said, all the people's lives who were destroyed because of him, but we're able to overlook that because he's the white guy. It's okay. We can rationalize it a little bit. And it's a shame that message still gets portrayed subliminally in mainstream, TV productions and movies on a daily basis. So
we sympathized with the stupidest shit just because it was like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. But when people are going hungry and it's like, oh, maybe, they've been arrested, they have a felony, all of that is systemic, right? So now they can't get certain jobs, they can't vote, they can't really do shit. And you say got them back on the streets selling drugs. Maybe they weren't even doing that before. They got arrested for something petty. And we can't grapple with that. We can't understand that because specifically, certainly the Black man is a villain. It doesn't matter what situation you put him in. He could be rich and he's a villain. The Black man is always a villain. So it's just like, it doesn't matter how you play it. We cannot sympathize with a villain. And if you've made up in your mind that someone is a villain, then it doesn't matter what situation or what the context or backstory is, nothing that they do is right because you've decided that they're a villain. And I think that's the issue. I don't know if there is a way around that thinking personally, other than having allies who are going to say, no, they're not villains. Let's talk about that shit. Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, to even do like another step of rewind on Breaking Bad, just while we're talking about Walter White. So even if you take him and Jesse, their starting points weren't even that bad. Like he was a teacher, but it was like, oh, he got cancer. Of course he had to sell meth. Like Jesse came from a 2-parent household. He was just a knucklehead kid, but it was like, oh, this was his only way. Shucks, like sorry it had to go that way, but we wish him the best in the end. And yeah, it was just crazy.
Yeah, and he lived. Jesse did live.
He made a whole nother movie after.
Made a whole nother movie. There was a whole thing about it.
I mean,
Everyone was
he pulled
taken
himself
care
up by
of.
the bootstraps,
That's what he did. He really did. And if just everyone could do that, if the Black men out here could just figure out how to do that for themselves, everyone would be all right.
Ben Carson did it, guys.
Oh, goodness. Oh, all right. Ben, hit us.
All right. So just a little lead into this question. So I'm someone who's got quite a bit of tattoos on him. I've had quite a bit of piercings and things like that in the past. So I've had uncomfortable situations from the glaring eyes of, people who judge you on your appearance. I can't begin to even imagine the fear that goes into someone's head of being a person of color being pulled over by police. Because I know just from my own personal experience, if I'm dressed for work in a suit and tie, I'm treated completely different being pulled over than I am if my tattoos are showing. I'm fortunate enough to just be a little annoyed if I have tattoos showing, but I can't begin to imagine seeing the fear of my life flash before my eyes by seeing sirens. But in the past few years, some of the normalcies, I should say, of clothing, unnatural hair piercings, tattoos have come a long way in culture. But I feel like in the African American community, they're still kind of frowned upon, so to speak, in a big way, especially in a professional setting, specifically when you talk about natural hair. So what can we do to help continue to bridge the gap of normalizing, people looking however the hell they want to look, regardless of their race, in a normal community and even furthermore in a professional setting?
So with regard to, I guess, like natural hair in the workplace, obviously the groundwork is being laid for that now. I think it's the Crown Bill or the Crown Act in California. It was passed just last year, which is which is crazy, but it prevents discrimination based on hair, natural hairstyles or whatever. And I think a few other states have either signed or passed the same bill. But what specifically can we do? Number one, I guess just continuing to give pushback if you do hear that people are discriminating against or have requirements that don't include natural hairstyles, and then being an advocate. So encouraging people to wear those styles, complimenting those styles, things of that nature. I mean, that's really the only thing that I can think of to kind of catalyze the movement.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, specifically for you, Ben, I know I'm sure you work in insurance. I assume you hire, you bring people onto the team. There's got to be a hiring team of some sort, conversations. If you hear someone say something about, a candidate that just left, oh, like her hair was interesting or whatever, like, I just question that shit. Like, why do you think that? Well, why is that a part of your thought process when we're, assessing someone's skills and qualifications? So people know that that's not important. Let that person be who they're going to be. I also am just as a person with natural hair, changes it frequently. I could go from a fro to braids at any point in time. I am a huge fan of when white people just call it out. Like, I normalize it. I feel like, we're just going to let's go with Karen, because that's the name that's hot right now. When Karen comes in every quarter and she's freshened up her dye job, we're like, oh, your roots look good, girl. You're doing it out here. I'd love the same compliments. I'm going to shout out a coworker. His name is Tim. Every time I change my hair, he's like, it looks great. That you're really doing that. That's great. I would love for us to let's just all just normalize it. It's just hair. The most important thing that you shan't do is touch a black person's hair. Let me just throw that out there for everyone. You will not, do not file that under facts. I just wanted to make sure that we got that in there somewhere. I am complete.
No, that's awesome to know. I mean, I know we have someone in our office, a woman of color, and she comes in with her hair different pretty regularly. And kudos to the people in my office, because she gets compliments on it every time.
Good.
And
Good.
She is gleaming every time she hears it, and she struts to her desk and smiles her ass off. So, I think it's important, like you said, to just normalize it. Hopefully that can help continue to move the needle. So
I actually said this to Matthew recently. I feel like when people don't say anything, I'm just like, so does it look like shit? Like maybe it didn't come out that well. It's like I had done this maybe 3 weeks ago. I had meetings all day. I didn't have a meeting with Tim. No one said anything about my hair. And Matthew had come by earlier in the day, and I was like, look, I done seen some people. Nobody said anything. Like, does it look bad? He was like, no, like it looks good. Like, I don't know what the issue is. But I guess it just makes people feel uncomfortable to call it, or they don't know what to say maybe, but just a normal compliment will do, FYI. So thank you for asking that. I think that could help some people. All right, let's do final question so we can wrap it up. Matthew, you want to hit us?
Yeah. This last one, again, it's kind of a combo of a question and a statement, but this one I am definitely going to speak for like 95+% of Black people. So this statement is about focus. I feel like a lot of times we lose focus. On behalf of all Black people, we don't really care about Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben representing what they represent on the box or the bottle. Like, we don't care that Cleveland Brown is really a dad bod white dude. Like, we don't care about that. We don't care about Lift Every Voice and Sing, opening up the football games for week 1 or 2 of the NFL season. Like, that means nothing. So what we would prefer, Mars, Quaker Oats, can we get more Black people on your executive board, please? Not make us come out with a whole, protest or a statement of Oscars so white. Can we diversify the academy a little bit? Can we do that? NFL is like 70+% Black players. Can we get some Black GMs, some Black owners, a Black minority ownership group? Can we do that? Like, those are things that we would care about. Like, the other stuff, to me, it's just empty calories. What we care about is things that are going to actually take steps towards impactful change, and focus on what the issues are. So when we're, a lot of folks just recently watched a video of somebody being murdered, like, on camera. Like, that's where our focus is on. So I guess the question is, how do we hold companies and organizations accountable for making changes and not just being non-racist, but like not appearing non-racist, but like actually making steps that are going to be changes that are impactful, not just symbolism type changes?
I think as far as staying focused, it's important to remind people when they get off topic to, hey, let's stay on focus. Instead of worrying about Uncle Ben and stuff, let's talk about equity of people of color instead of just representation on a box. Like you said, why is the NFL 90% of African American, but I think 2 owners, I think is the case. So why can't we continue to stay focused on the task at hand? All right, everyone's back. Why can't we continue to stay on focus and talk about George Floyd, talk about Breonna Taylor? Why can't we continue to say their name until we don't have to say people's names anymore? And I think if, we hear that conversation getting off the rails, you just try to steer back in the right direction with something as simple as a Facebook post, that you haven't made one in a week or 2, something that to help remind people that this conversation is still going on. It's not just trendy. This has been happening since the institution of the United States of America, and it's not going to go away until we force it to. So, it just goes along with lines of everything else of being an ally. Speak up when you need to speak up. Don't be silent. Silence is why we're still here. George Floyd was held silent for 8.5 minutes. So it's time for us to make sure that we talk so no one else has to be silenced anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, piggyback, I guess, continuing to speak, specifically for white people. I think we all go silent at some point, right? It's certainly when it's not sexy anymore, it's not the movement of the moment. I think white people tend to disappear first as far as being outspoken, and the rest of us do the same. Other things are happening. Life continues until someone else dies or is murdered. Continuing to speak. This has to be the movement where we don't stop. We don't, we keep our foot on the gas. Also, hitting these organizations where it hurts. Money matters. We know that. Let's not act like the NFL showing support now isn't a money move. You didn't give a shit about Colin Kaepernick and what he was doing. But now when COVID is done, you need to fill them seats again. And let's not act like the Black dollar doesn't matter there. And the Black players that you got don't matter. You want them to show up, you better say something. So regardless of statements, hit people where it hurts until they start actually acting. Also, I think combating some of the counter rhetoric is important. So a lot of comments about like tearing down statues is a shift in focus too about what matters. Everyone's mad about history being torn down. Oh, how are we going to know about the people who founded this country? It's not that big a deal, I promise you. Like, tear down every symbol of the oppressor, and you can honestly keep the symbols of the oppressed. I'm fine with Aunt Jemima. There's a story on the back of the syrup, on the back of the pancake box. There's a story. Leave that shit. Leave Uncle Ben. I keep all of these images to me. Remind people that there is an oppressed group in America, one group more than others. I'm fine with keeping those stories. Tear down all this shit of the oppressors. That shit is not important. And yeah, keep saying the names of people who have yet to get justice. Just in case I haven't said her name yet, Breonna Taylor's murderers still go free. I'll throw that in the description as well, so you could help move the needle where that's concerned. But yeah, I mean, hopefully those things yield some sort of change. I don't know. All right, well, I appreciate y'all. The conversation was, it was great. I really enjoyed it. I liked some of our tangents there. I think provided a lot of insight for anyone who wants to be an ally, anyone who already is, and maybe is questioning some of the things that they do or are wanting to do. So I really appreciate everything that both of you have brought to the conversation. As always, I want to elevate Black voices, Black businesses, and then also just provide additional resources for anyone who considers themselves an ally or someone else considers you an ally, or you're just looking to figure out ways to support the movement in general. I'll hit with mine first. So my resource is actually a webinar that's coming up pretty soon here on July 20th. Ibram Kendi will be doing a webinar that is based on his New York Times bestseller. Hopefully it's going to be backwards, but you can see that. It is called How to Be Anti-Racist, and it is an excellent read. I highly recommend it. So I will put a link in the description to register for this webinar. It's 100% free, and I believe is going to be incredibly insightful for everyone in attendance. And then the business that I want to shout out is Mimi's Fresh Teas. It is Black owned. It is based in Portland, and they're social justice t-shirt company. I will share a link to their website and then also their Instagram so you can check them out and show some support. Ben, tell us about resource businesses that you've got.
Yeah, so I don't have as many resources in the community, but one place I really want to go, I haven't been there yet. I just found out about them last week. They're in Charlotte. It's a business called Hip Hop Smoothies. All of their smoothies are named after famous hip hop artists. They play nothing but hip hop. It is a destination of mine to go to now since it's only an hour and a half drive away. I want to support them, and want to give a big shout out to my barber. I hate that I'm on camera knowing that I got to get my hair cut in 2 days. And I'm a week and a half out from fade. But Executive Grooming Barbershop here in Raleigh, under Raleigh, Black-owned barbershop, my favorite place to go every two Saturdays to get lined up. So
nice. Thank you. And we will link Facebook's websites for that information as well, so you could check them out. Matthew, what about you? What do you got for us?
Yeah, so I did two real quick. One that's local here in Columbia, and then one from back home. So the first place I haven't been, but the next time we get back to Dago, I'll definitely be going there. It's called Breakfast Bitch. Yes, Breakfast Bitch. It's a brunch spot in the Hillcrest area. I'll send you the link and the address and whatnot. You can connect with them on Facebook. Their website is eatbreakfastbitch.com. So yeah, check them out. Black owned. Their menu looks dope. And like I said, next time we get to the West, I'll definitely be going there. And then locally, I didn't want to just do a food spot. So here in Columbia, Missouri, check out the Nehemiah Group, construction group of brothers. Their services include home renovations, remodeling, demolition, and restoration. So you can connect with them on Facebook, and yeah, I'll get you all the links and whatnot to put when we post the video and everything. So yeah, thank you again for having me on. It's been dope, and yeah, those are my shout outs.
Awesome, awesome. Like I said, everything will be in the description below. It was amazing having both of you. Thank you for everything that you brought to the table today. I know that this will be helpful for many people watching. Next week's episode is actually going to be with a millennial ally that I think allyship for millennials is really interesting right now. There's just a wave of people coming out in support that is to some degree new. The way that they're doing things is different, certainly from what we've seen from previous generations. So I think it'll be a good conversation. Please check that out if you would like to get a notification for it. Subscribe, hit the bell so you get a notification. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you all again, and we'll see you next time. Bye.